This podcast is part of the Treksphere Network.
To find more Star Trek-related content, visit Treksphere.com.
Maybe you should sing a Mary Poppins tune at the beginning.
As you know, this is the measure of an episode.
Oh, I was like, there is no Mary Poppins tune that starts that way. It's like, oh, I get it.
Where it's our continuing mission to explore and make Star Trek proper Star Trek. No. But it's too late. The damage is done. I know that's going into the episode. And not just kind of like a series premiere. I mean, yes, it's a season premiere, but there's so much shakeup in this episode that this is where like they knew the characters. Whatever. Anyway, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Paul, and the criteria by which we judge these episodes. Number 1, is there science fiction inherent to the plot? Is there science fiction in it?
Anywhere.
Number 1, anywhere. But also, is it inherent to the plot? Number 2, is that science fiction unique or novel in some way? Does it subvert some sort of cliche that we're used to seeing? Like, just because there are laser guns, that does not make it okay. Okay. Number 3, is there a moral or ethical dilemma presented by the episode? And I'm Paul.
And I'm Jonathan. And this week we watched The Way of the Warrior, which is the only 2-hour season premiere of any Star Trek show. There's been series premiere that are 2 hours, but this was originally aired as a 2-hour season premiere.
And I was trying to figure out, so when I saw it on Netflix, I was trying to find the place, because it was one episode, but somewhere else I saw that it was 2 episodes.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if it was originally 2 episodes and they just stitched together and said, let's do a 2-hour. Because I was looking for that hard out of the first episode. It's like, I think it's probably when he's engaging with the Klingons is my guess. Who knows?
Right. No, it was actually aired as a 2-hour episode, and then they split it up and they edited it. They cut out pieces to make it equal to 2 episodes.
Interesting.
So Hulu says, when the Klingon Empire ends its peace treaty with the Federation, Sisko must help Klingon Starfleet officer Worf decide where his loyalties lie.
Man, spoiler alert.
Right?
Hope you're not watching this for the first time, Hulu. There are more synopses on Hulu.
What?
Because there are more synopses. Because Netflix is
the cold open every time.
Yeah, because the promenade swarms with Klingons. However, that's just this one sentence. That's the promenade swarms with Klingons, period.
Right.
Usually it's a this, therefore, or this, but.
Yeah.
However, the warriors aren't their antagonistic selves. Period. That's it. Martok tells Sisko they've come to fight the Dominion.
Right. I mean.
That's it.
Yeah. To be fair, the Hulu one says nothing about Cardassia, but yeah, the Hulu one definitely gives away more of what to expect in this.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird.
I mean, Worf's not even mentioned.
No. Well, because at least Netflix knew it's supposed to be a cool reveal. Because I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I
did not know this was the episode either. Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of becomes an episode, a Worf episode.
Yes, it does.
Like the first 20 minutes is all the stuff with Sisko, and it starts off. Well, let's get into the plot, Jonathan.
Well, yeah. So this is not a proper Star Trek episode. The moral and ethical dilemma were very strong there with Worf. I just need to apologize in advance. I've got a rabbit in the garage, and like he is rattling his cage something fierce. So
he's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, not just a rabbit wandered in.
Yeah, no, this is not the animal that brought in carrots when it was grocery shopping.
Well, he had other groceries too. It wasn't just carrots.
Right,
but that was mostly carrots.
Yeah, that's what he dropped. This is not what the rabbit drops. I mean, it does eventually, but it's more of a food processing system.
But we'll get into that later.
Sure, might as well. Honestly, like I thought this was a great episode. I absolutely loved it. I just because there was so much character development and there was so much character backstory that was introduced to this, but I don't really have anything to talk about. Like I've got some fun behind the scenes stuff, but I mean, we can talk about this beat by beat, but like
You know what it's starting to feel like?
No.
Because this happens every once in a while where we watch an episode and we've watched a little behind the scenes here for the listener. We've watched 4 episodes in the past amount of time. We're supposed to only watch 1 because we realized that we watched 2 episodes that were not really appropriate because they were near the tail end of DS9, and of course everything is very serialized. So we decided we didn't want to watch 8 episodes or 10 episodes for 1 episode of The Measure of an Episode. So we decided to watch 2 more earlier, and took all those notes. God. Anyway, I've watched 4 episodes of DS9 lately, and I have to say, it's starting to feel like a soap opera, where there's these not really interesting plot lines that are threaded through, like long plot lines that are threaded through a bunch of different episodes. So the amount of progression is so dilute. It's like you're super thirsty, but you only get an ice chip every hour. That kind of thing. And so that's what it feels like to me. And that's how soap operas work, because they have an episode every goddamn day.
Right.
I agree with you. There's really nothing to talk about. Yes, it was fun that Worf was now. I mean, Worf is great. It's funny. It's so refreshing to see that level of character. Somebody who's been doing it for so long. Like, he was on Next Gen for 7 years before coming on to and he did a movie. It's funny. They specifically reference Generations.
Mm-hmm.
And they even talk about the best of both worlds.
Right. That's what I loved about this episode. Like, there was so much shakeup in DS9. Like, we ended the Sycamore Treaty. We had Worf reintroduced. Worf had good backstory with O'Brien. They kind of mentioned a couple things. There's a lot of callbacks to character development from Next Generation, and there's lots of references to previous episodes, both in DS9 and Next Generation. And like, this is the kind of world building that I feel like can happen in episodic television without having to be so serial that every episode, like, you have to know all the previous episodes to understand what they're talking about. Like, they mentioned things that we haven't watched yet, but that was fine. It didn't take me out of the show and make me completely confused as to what was going on. It was just little throwaway lines that they do with characters anyway when they're trying to establish backstory.
Yes, and I feel like this episode was, as you said, very character specific, but kind of novelty stuff. For example, this is the first episode, apparently, that Sisko is bald and also goateed.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I mean, Cassidy even comments on it a little bit. She walks in and she's like, oh, and she kind of rubs his head and she makes a wish.
Yeah, well, she's been watching the show also since season 1, right. And she's just delighted that something is actually happening.
Yeah, the forward movement there.
She is like the most patient, giving partner in a relationship. Like, they were having dinner, and he gets called to the bridge. He's like, I got to go. And he's like, you'll stay here and wait for me? She says, yeah, I'll be waiting right here. And then he just leaves. And then we never see them have dinner again. I get the impression that he just never comes back, and she's just still waiting there.
Well, yeah, and then she comes up, and she's like, I'm leaving. And he's like, oh, we had dinner plans. That's right.
I was just on my way back.
Right.
She's just always happy. She's always happy to be there. Like, she doesn't seem to care that he's just never there, which is fine, because I'm so tired of that thing. It's like, you're always at work, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, one of the things that I really like about her as a character is just she has her own career as well. And so there's not really, I'm waiting here for you. It's just, yeah, you got stuff to do. I do too. Like, I can't wait around for you, but I enjoy the time that we have together.
Yeah, it's nice. It's refreshing. There's not just all the melodrama between 2 characters. They saved that for other characters, apparently.
For Keiko.
Right. Ah, what a bitch.
I mean, specifically O'Brien, though. Like, he's the one who's like, I just wish you'd stay here.
So something happens. Kira and Dax are hanging out in the old holodeck or holosuite, I guess. And we're not going to go through the plot because really nothing happens. So Kira and Dax are waiting or having fun, or trying to have fun in the holodeck. And Kira is not actually having fun. She says to Dax, like, this is silly. I feel stupid. Mm-hmm. None of this is real. Those guys that you came in with, they're not real. You're dressed ridiculous. I'm dressed ridiculous. I'm wondering, and this is a question for you, Jonathan.
Okay.
And the audience. Is this actually something that a human would say if presented with a box that you could walk into, create any interactive environment possible? You can do anything you want. Anything. And she's like, I feel this is silly. This is stupid. These things aren't real. I feel like no human's ever going to say that, right? Ever. Like you walk into this amazing thing. I mean, I feel like if there were people like that, I guess there are people who don't like movies, but people who go into movie theaters and like, well, this isn't real.
Right.
There's not a man named Captain America. This is ridiculous. Who likes this? Right? That was her attitude toward it. And I just don't think that would ever happen.
I mean, I guess it depends on what they're going in for. You know, like if Dax is going in to date, then I could see Kira going, why? Like, you're going to turn off the program. This isn't a date. This is a computer simulation.
She's like, let me have this.
Right. I mean, and it could also be that that's not what Kira wants to use the holodeck for, and so she's just kind of humoring Dax, and Dax is trying to drag her along, and you know, she says, this isn't my idea of a good time.
Yeah, but that's kind of not what she said. She said basically, I feel silly. None of this is real.
Right.
As though it wouldn't matter what I was in here for. The fact that it's not real is what's turning me off.
Right.
And I feel like that attitude wouldn't exist.
I mean, yeah, you go into the holodeck knowing that it's not real. So, you know.
This isn't real?
Right.
This is amazing.
Well, no, like you're shocked. Wait.
Right.
He's not real?
Yeah.
Are you real?
Am I real?
Right.
They're touching her face.
Have an existential crisis in the middle of the holodeck. But yeah, I agree. Like that is not the place where it would happen. Other than her saying, I told you I didn't want to do this. Like, he's not real.
Right.
Like,
right.
this should not be news to Dax or the first time she's sharing. Unless she's like, I'm sorry, I should have told you. But there should have been some recognition that this conversation took place or she was feeling this beforehand.
They kind of doubled down on her past as a Bajoran refugee or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very... I think there were 2 or 3 instances where she just kind of randomly throws out that she was tortured by the Cardassians or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they were hitting us over the head with that for some reason, even though we've had 3 seasons of that.
Right.
So maybe that was why they had her do that, because it's like, oh, this is unimportant to what I've been through. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like she's kind of a Debbie Downer, or
right.
sorry, a Donnie Downer.
Yeah.
She's a Donnie Downer.
Right. I'm just trying, like, is there some way that you can, I mean, she's a downer, but that's not really fun.
No, she needs a name.
I know.
They need a name.
Is there a D gender neutral name? I mean, Dawn. That could be DAWN or DON.
A Donnie Downer? No, she just sounds like she is very clean.
No, a Dawn Downer, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. It does need to be 2 syllables. Anyway, audience, if you could think of a gender neutral D name, let us know. But yeah,
we're still both trying to
I know I'm distracted by that now. Like it's invading my brain.
Anyway, it just felt like just as a discussion of holodecks in general, not necessarily specific to this episode, it just doesn't it feels like it would be the most important invention ever.
Well, but here's the thing. Like, you either like it or you don't. You know, you either are saying it's a false experience, and so you shouldn't be so excited to go in there, or you're saying exactly what you're saying. Like, you can create anything in there, and so you should have a good time no matter what.
Well, that's the thing, is you can create any situation.
Right.
Anything. So it's like, if you are someone who enjoys situations of some kind, then you could find a way to enjoy this thing, right? Whether you walk into an arcade that has real games or walk into a holodeck arcade where the games aren't real, but you still the experience is the same.
You're right. Like, having a holosuite available to you all the time. This shouldn't be the first time that Dax has invited Kira into the holosuite, and this shouldn't be the first time that Kira is saying none of this is real.
Well, Kira got dressed up,
right?
Which to me is the hardest part about going into a holodeck,
right? But it's multiple
or that you
times,
even have to,
isn't it? Yeah, like she's in the holosuite dressed just in kind of like spa beachwear, right? Yeah,
it's like a bikini.
Yeah, and then she comes out of the holosuite dressed in medieval princess garb,
which she seems to be enjoying herself. She got into the character a bit, incorrectly, apparently, but still got into it. She was playing the role,
right?
Which seems to be what a lot of people do in holodecks. They like to play out narratives.
Mm-hmm.
as though they're reading a book, but they're actually embodying the character that is the main character.
I mean, they're playing a video game essentially.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I feel like that would not be the majority of what people do in the holodeck.
Well, I feel like there'd be a video game where you are actively involved in the story, and there would be a book where you are an invisible observer watching this event transpire in front of you, which is essentially a movie.
Right.
Just
Which one
an
I'd
immersive
prefer?
movie.
I don't think I would like to be a character. I guess there's two parts. There are parts of me that would want to watch a movie, and the other part is where I'd want to engage in the narrative. But I wouldn't want to just be in the movie where I have no effect on stuff.
Right.
Then I just want to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
I would play it for like escape rooms and thrillers and mysteries and that kind of thing, where there are things to solve, there are puzzles to figure out,
and they could be in entire houses,
right?
Entire buildings,
absolutely.
Of this type of thing.
Yeah.
That's my dream, by the way. Like, I want there to be some company that makes an escape room getaway for a weekend, where it's not just an hour, it's a weekend.
Right.
And, they have food and stuff.
Right.
And it's like it's a whole experience. It's like a Disneyland for escape rooms.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing. Although I don't know, I think it would just be intellectually draining.
Right. I mean, well, it would have to be with a group of people, and it would have to, like, it wouldn't just be an escape room where you're going from house, like room to room throughout the house trying to solve it. Yeah.
Just hours. Oh, God, there's another lock. Who cares? Let's get the hell out of here.
Right. You can leave at any time. Like, that's the worst. That that the door is unlocked and you can get yourself out.
Right.
So
you haven't earned it.
Right. You haven't earned it. So you're like, just keep it going.
All right. Found
Anyway,
the key. Who cares?
Yeah. That's why Kira doesn't have a good time.
Yeah. What else happens in this episode? Oh, my favorite Klingon ever.
Gowron
shows up.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of close-ups of him in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to see, like, is he opening his eyes wide on purpose as part of the character, or is this just his face?
Oh, no. He opens his eyes wide. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the energy last night to find a picture of the actor.
Right.
But
it's actually
is
why he got the part. So he played it originally as like a very stern, sober Klingon. And after he read, they were like, can you give us something different? And so he just went balls to the wall insane. And he played it
so great.
Yeah, he played it over the top. He like laughed maniacally in different places, and he just kept his eyes in that crazy wide that he can do. And they were like, yep, that's what we're looking for. There's our Gowron.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I never knew I always wanted that.
I loved it. I loved seeing it. I was like, oh, because he's in Next Gen.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that? Okay.
Yeah. I did also like that Worf went into his exercise program and it had the Skull Warrior.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
nice little callback.
That was a great little callback. Yeah. See, and it's that kind of thing. Like, if we hadn't seen that previous episode, that doesn't detract from that scene at all. Like, it's just his exercise program and that's the end of it. But having seen it before, it just keeps that established continuity and that greater world that's out there. And that's the part that I don't understand why episodic shows are so averse to doing that, because all it does is add, it doesn't detract. People are not going to be confused by seeing those scenes. And so I always get confused when, I mean, the original series, I know it was from the 60s. And so like they were kind of establishing television in general at that point. But even in the third season, they did have a few episodes where they made little callbacks to things that had happened before, which doesn't detract. And like the season 3 of Next Generation, all of those episodes are basically continuations of the first 2 seasons. And you didn't have to watch them before, but it just makes them that much richer when you do. And I just, like that's the type of serial television that I'd love to see, where each episode you can watch all by itself, but having seen previous episodes just makes it that much more enjoyable.
I don't know if that's sustainable. I mean, I do, like, I agree with you. I think one of the reasons that this particular episode is engaging is that they do give you these little breadcrumbs to previous universe stuff. It's not just characters. It's just little things. And I felt like, for example, we get, I don't know if this is the first time this is invoked, but the reason that the Defiant has a cloaking, well, not the reason, but they talk about how it's the first ship that has a cloaking device, the first Federation ship that has a cloaking device. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, we can use the cloaking device to get through the Klingons, but our agreement with the Romulans says that we can't cloak in the Alpha Quadrant, which I was like, what? How is that helpful? Why do we have it then? Because the Delta Quadrant, all the other quadrants are very far away. So why would that be an agreement they would make? And then why would they put it onto the Defiant?
Right.
So I must be missing something.
You are actually. You're missing it because the 2 episodes that we've watched are where that comes from. In the search, the cloaking device was first introduced when we kind of first saw the Defiant. I don't remember. But then in Defiant, they established that rule that it couldn't be used in the Alpha Quadrant.
Why though? It seems like such a bad rule. Why would they end up building it then? Because they're in the Alpha Quadrant. That's where all their business is.
Right, but I think it was to establish the trust that the Starfleet wouldn't use it to spy on races that were not part of the Federation within the Alpha Quadrant. Like those races have specifically established that they don't want to be part of the Federation.
Okay.
And then going into the Gamma Quadrant, it would allow them to see what's happening with the Dominion without being seen. So, I mean, there's probably some wiggle room where, like, if they're going into the wormhole, they can turn on the cloaking device, but they can't be cloaked in the Alpha Quadrant, just kind of flying around. This is another fun fact that I forgot to mention in that episode, but it's got Seska as the Romulan on the Defiant. Remember when they had the Romulan on the Defiant?
Right.
That was Seska.
Actually Seska, or the person who plays Seska?
The person who plays Seska. I think Seska was in the Delta Quadrant at that point.
Because that would have been amazing.
Right. She's just all kinds of different.
She's all over the place.
A Cardassian pretending to be a Bajoran, pretending to be a Romulan. Like,
right.
So many layers of reconstructive surgery done.
Right. Oh, we did get a good answer, by the way. Speaking of cloak, we get a good answer from Worf. Somebody says all the Klingons are cloaked somewhere, or something like that. Julian says that, or whatever. And that's not very honorable. And so then Worf says, in war, there is nothing more honorable than victory. So apparently hiding is okay if it means you can be victorious.
If it means you can win. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it does go back to kind of what we eventually landed on, which was the battle is the part that they care about. So it's okay to sneak up on someone as long as you face them and don't stab them in the back.
Well, I wonder, because actually Kira gets stabbed in the back by a Klingon, and I wonder, is that okay too? Like, is it just about winning now? Is this whole honor thing a bunch of crap?
And they're just bullies who do anything to win?
Yeah, because they do everything, like you said, they do everything that would be seemingly dishonorable.
Right. They sneak up and stab you in the back. I win!
I am better than you!
Songs will be sung of my glory.
I'm 90 years old.
It is a good day to die. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some element of when you're in a battlefield like that, it's about taking out the enemy. It's not about doing it in an honorable way. It's about, the victory is what matters. But when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, like, you can't, by any means necessary, win.
Well, they're not following the Robin Hood sense of fighting, where there is no fighting if it's not with a sword, right? I don't think, if you watch any Robin Hood movie, that there's actual fist fighting. You're either fighting with a sword or it's not. There's no fighting.
Right.
That's the only. I think it may be different for Klingons, where yes, they have knives and such, but it doesn't matter how we beat you. Like if I just punch you in the throat, then that's honorable.
Right. Well, so what I was gonna say was, or because all of the glory and honor that we've learned comes from Worf, who is an outsider to his own culture. And so he has established this glorified version of Klingons and their code of honor. And so, whenever he hears about people sneaking up in battle or stabbing them in the back, which is totally fine for Klingons, he's the one who gets mad and says, you've acted without honor.
It would seem like there would be very few truly honorable Klingons left, because they have all been stabbed in the back.
Right. And now quote unquote honor is equivalent with winning. by any means necessary. Yeah.
Which doesn't quite pan out.
Right.
Doesn't quite work. But actually, maybe that's true. Maybe we've kind of uncovered something here, because a lot of the people who espouse being honorable in the Klingon, like whether it's Next Gen or Deep Space Nine or whatever, they're all powerful people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you don't get to be a powerful person in whatever race you are by not stabbing some people in the back.
Right. I mean, that's a cynical way of looking at things, but you're probably right.
And I guess that speaks to how people become corrupt in the first place.
Right.
Is that their intentions aren't necessarily bad from the start.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that if we just get this little leg up, we can make things better for everybody.
Right.
And it's those little legs up that start to turn into bigger legs up. And how can we accomplish this to our idealistic goal, our altruistic goal in the future? We must accomplish this by any means necessary.
Right. Well, and yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the case, because what happens is most people have a line that they eventually realize, oh my gosh, I've gone too far. But you do a little thing that is really inconsequential, but your brain has now established that little thing is okay to do. That becomes a norm thing for you. Even if you never do it again, you've done it once. And so then when the next situation comes around and it's a little bit worse, you're no longer going a little bit farther. You're still taking that little step from where your brain is okay with being. And so, you keep declining by degrees, but each decline becomes the new norm. So you're always choosing to do just a little bit, but from where you started, it's progressively worse.
You become morally desensitized.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. And I do that every day.
You either die the hero or you live long enough to become the villain.
Right. And that's why Kira doesn't like the holodeck. There's nothing else to talk about in this episode. Okay?
I know. Again, like this, I'm not bashing on this episode. This was a great 2-hour episode. Like I think you're right. I think I'm just a little worn out because I had to watch those 2 episodes and realize that it wasn't done. And then I had to watch 2 more episodes. Again, with so much world building, I really enjoyed this episode. There's just not a lot to talk about other than all the Easter eggs and callbacks.
I do wish that all of the Deep Space Nine episodes were like this, where it had its feet firmly planted in the universe, where they were referencing things. And I don't want member berries. I don't want it to be remember when Worf was on the Enterprise type of show.
Yeah.
But little stuff where we get little insights into the world,
mm-hmm.
like the first time in this one where we talk about the Romulans saying we can't cloak in the Alpha Quadrant.
Right.
We've never heard that before.
Exactly, but it's world building, and so it's right.
It's all, yeah. In all seriousness, I like that there were so many references to the world, not to past things, but just to the world. We
mm-hmm.
got information
mm-hmm.
about stuff. That's what attracts us to Star Trek, is that it isn't just about the characters. There's actually a living universe that these characters are in, and we want to hear more about it. I mean, that's what I like more about Voyager, is that they seem to even though they're in the whatever Delta Quadrant,
mm-hmm.
they're living in the universe a little bit better. They use the ship.
Yeah.
They use the tech.
But I think that's also what detracts me from Voyager is the 2 things. One, that it doesn't matter what they do out there because none of it matters because they're completely isolated themselves from everything else. But 2, there are things that they do in previous episodes that they don't recall in later episodes. They're like, hey, remember when we did this thing that saved us? It will save us now if we modify it just a little bit.
Right. You're right. They live in the universe, but the execution of the universe can be a little janky sometimes.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, what else do you want to talk about in this thing?
I know.
It was interesting that I kind of liked the idea that they were practicing looking for shapeshifters.
Yes.
What do they call them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, changelings. Mm-hmm.
Changelings.
Younglings.
Gotta go kill another youngling. I found one.
Good job, Annie.
I like it in any episode where they just jump right into the action.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out to be a drill where they're looking for.
Did you figure it out? I figured it out. I don't remember what. Oh, when she said he knows the station as well as anybody or something like that.
I mean, I didn't understand. I thought that this was sort of a continuation.
Okay.
Even though it wasn't specifically a continuation, I thought I was missing something. And so I
Right.
just kind of let it wash over me. I'm sure I'll know what's going on at a certain point.
Right.
But I was thinking, is it a futile effort to search for a changeling like that? If they can truly take the shape of anything, even if you have little devices, if you have this entire continent of a station, they can be the floor you're walking on. It doesn't, like, you're never going to find them. Right.
Yeah, but it makes more sense, instead of having portable scanners, they should all have portable scanners, but to put those scanners in every room and just have them go off like every 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. Gives them a little shock. Ow.
Well, yeah, that's what it does. If you're a changeling, it gives you a little shock.
That would suck for Odo.
Oh, right?
You got to take one for the team, buddy.
I didn't think about that. That's probably why they don't do that. You confine me to my quarters.
Although it is interesting that we do learn, again, another little tidbit about the world, that Odo doesn't eat or drink. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is covered earlier that we haven't gotten to yet, but I liked that he, just to fit in, he can pretend like he's drinking.
Right. Which is, it's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's totally gross. Especially when it like refills.
Right.
It's like, oh, great, you just pissed into the coffee cup.
Yeah.
Let's see what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, he is ultimately a gelatinous mass that happens to take a shape that we are familiar with. And it's no different than taking a piece of clay from one spot and moving it to another spot. So, like, I get that. But, yeah, it's just the fact that he's humanoid, like, makes that gross. Like, you've just taken pieces of yourself, put it in this thing that is still you to make it look like a liquid, and now you're just transferring it somewhere else. And just watching you do that is gross.
And I don't understand. If you can make yourself water, if you can make yourself look like anything, why can't you do a face? I understand that they say, oh, well, that's very difficult for us to do. We don't know how to do that. It's like, well, yeah, but you do all these other things.
Right.
You just had feathers as a bird.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make a face. I feel like a feather is way harder to do. It's got way more edges. It's much more fractal than a face.
Well, and there are things in this episode that we will discover later on that make Odo's position and the changeling's position on faces even more confusing.
It's confusing.
Yeah, it's already confusing. So for it to be even more confusing, that's going to be an episode. I have no idea when we're going to get to it, but that's going to be an episode that's going to require a lot of discussion between us. But I feel like, just to circle back around, like we've said a whole lot of nothing, kind of like this episode. But
yeah, compared to the earlier episodes, the earlier seasons, that everyone seems to have settled into their character pretty well.
Yeah,
they're not always kind of doing the things their character would do all the time. It's they are now more comfortable with the characters. A little less science fiction-y television show, a little more kind of, oh, this is who this person is. It's very casual on DS9.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Next Gen,
no.
where even though there were casual moments, everybody was kind of doing their job when they were on the bridge, and now everybody's just kind of like, hey, you want to play some darts?
Right.
Let's go play some darts.
Yeah, they've got a lot of downtime on DS9.
Well, they don't do anything.
Right.
Well, okay, so not a science fiction, not a proper Star Trek episode then.
I mean, do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, it was cool that we got little tidbits of stuff, but does that count?
No, because all of the stuff was just world building. It wasn't sci-fi. Like there was, the Klingon treaty broke. That could have been a Syrian treaty, like that broke. They upgraded their station. Like people get new weapons all the time, and they brought on a new crew member. Like none of these things are sci-fi.
Yeah, I guess the contributions to the world were not science fiction in nature.
Right.
So it doesn't get, and they weren't necessarily novel either.
Right. Like the changeling part at the beginning was absolutely sci-fi and novel, but
that was it.
Yeah. But like that wasn't
an opener.
Yeah, that wasn't the story at all.
It could have been Jake talking about his favorite Creole recipe.
Exactly.
Wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. That was how much impact it had on the plot.
Okay. So I actually enjoyed it too. It was a fun episode to watch.
Good.
So I'll give it a no yes.
Yeah. And me too.
Or yes no?
No yes. You were right the first
No
time.
yes. Okay. Very good. So let's see what we're watching next, Jonathan.
Sounds good.
Star Trek Voyager. Excited, Jonathan? Season 5, Episode 11, Latent Image. This looks very familiar. Someone is trying to keep the Doctor from remembering the incident surrounding a crew member's death. Oh boy. Another crew member dies. Probably eulogies abound.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to get another eulogy. And what's your picture? What's your thumbnail?
It was a picture, or it is a picture of the Doctor standing next to Ensign Kim, who is standing next to like half of another ensign or half of another crew member.
With his face covered in smoke?
Or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Prime is exactly the same.
Oh, they got uncreative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember this from the last time I watched Voyager all the way through. It was like 10 years ago. So
The problem is like it's just vague enough of a blurb that like it could be one of, 17 different episodes.
Yeah, I think what I'm guessing is I think this is going to become a very emotionally driven episode where somebody this is my what's it called when you foretell the future? My prediction. God damn it. This is my prediction about this episode. It's not going to be some interesting intrigue about a mystery about a person or about something going weird with the space-time continuum or somebody time traveled or something like that. It's going to be about when somebody died and it made the Doctor sad and it was ruining his life, and so they decided to take it out of his memory. And that's going to be it.
Oh.
That's what I think it's going to be.
Okay.
It's not going to be interesting. It's going to be somebody died and somebody's sad.
Right. And they were trying to help him forget, and then he started digging into the clues as to why he couldn't remember, and then he just has to relive it all over again.
Right. It's going to feel interesting at the beginning.
Right.
It's going to feel like, oh, an intrigue. Pray tell.
Yeah.
And then nothing.
Or that's the first 20 minutes of the episode, and then it goes completely, pulls a full, like goes hard left and doesn't.
Have you seen Voyager before?
Or that's the B plot, and there's some other.
Yeah, because they usually put the B plot in the blurb and leave the A plot for a surprise.
Right. No, I mean it probably will be one of those episodes that we're going to talk about where they got the plots reversed. Like the A plot is about him losing a friend and them trying to save him and not remember who it is. And the B plot will be them discovering a Dyson sphere that also travels in time. And there's 3 scenes for that.
Star Trek The Next Generation 401, The Best of Both Worlds. Deanna finds a new recipe of chocolate in the holodeck.
Right. In the replicator, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Right?
Well, she has to formulate them. She has to go to the holodeck and say, like, how do I make this?
Yes.
Like, she has to perfect the recipes.
Yeah. All right, well,
should we go watch it?
Yeah, let's go watch it. I'm excited now.
I've been Paul.
I've been Jonathan.
And this has been The Measure of an Episode.
Me do it?
Yeah.
But you already knew that. I cannot make her anybody beyond, what is that, Audrey Hepburn? Katharine Hepburn?
But you already knew that.
But you already knew that.
She sounds evil.
I know, she sounds like Salad
You're
Fingers.
a villain. Yeah. Wait, like who?
Salad Fingers?
Rusty
Who's that?
spoons, but you already knew that. Jeremy Harper.
No, you don't know?
No.
Oh, well, our listeners who do know that, it's a spot on impression. And Paul, you need to go watch it and you need to tell us what you think about it next time.
At first, I thought you were doing the villain from Emperor's New Groove, who is
Eartha Kitt, right. Yeah, that's
What's her name in the movie?
Isma.
What's her name in the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep.
None whatsoever. Like,
Pull the lever, Kronk.
Right.
wrong lever!
All right, now we're just quoting the show.
All right, let's go watch it.
All right, bye.
Bye.